Good day, Bangalore citizens. My name is Ravichandar, and over the next 15 to 20 minutes, I will walk you through the revised Master Plan 2031 that has been put out as a draft document by the BDA. The idea of this particular session is to give citizens a sense of what steps to follow to be able to understand the implications of RMP 2031 for their specific area. So this is really more in terms of what it means at a micro level rather than at a citywide level. The starting point of such an exercise starts with the bdabangalore.org website, which is listed out here. So bdabangalore.org rmp2031.html. Now, when you go to that particular website, you will see a certain set of documents that are put out on that particular website. Now, this is what that website looks like, and you will find that there are 6 volumes starting from vision document going up to zoning regulations. And apart from that, there's a brochure, city level PLU and ELU. We'll come to what those terms mean. There is a suggestion form. There's a brochure of RMP in Kannada that's available. So when you go to the homepage of bdabangalore.org RMP 2031, this is what you will see. Now, the first thing that you need to do is download Chapter 4. Chapter 4 deals with your planning district. Now, most of us do not know which planning district that we belong to. And the BDA planners have put all of Bangalore in 42 planning districts. So to be able to find out what your planning district is, let's just now go to the chapter 4, which I have downloaded here so that it's easier to read. So you will come across a table of this kind, which actually sets out, for example, planning district 1 is the central Bangalore district, covering Shivaji Nagar, Vasant Nagar, Alsur, and the like. Indira Nagar, for instance, comes under planning district 2. Koramangala, parts of Shanti Nagar comes under planning district 3, and the like. It goes on to 42 districts. So the first step is to find out what is the planning district that you belong to. After you have figured out which planning district you belong to, you next go to chapter 2. Chapter 2 has a word, and if I can just show you the BDA website again, you will find that volume 2 deals with something called ELU maps. ELU stands for existing land use. What is the land use to which the place is being put to currently? Now, you must remember that whenever we are discussing the revised master plan, the most important things to understand really is that this plan will decide what is the land use to which the city, various plots and areas are put to, and what are the zoning regulations. These are the 2 important things about the master plan. So when you go to chapter 2, existing land use, you download the planning district map related to your area. And once you download that, you expand your PDX map and look for the various properties shown out there. They typically will have a color code. We will shortly go and have a look at a particular planning district map. Yellow is residential, blue is commercial, red is public, semi-public, and so on. There's a whole legend of what each of them mean. In your planning district, you can see whether your plot is correctly represented. Are all the streets shown? My limited exercise has shown that there are a lot of missing streets. Playgrounds and parks are not shown. One can make a note of those things. And then once you've made a list of things that are incorrect in the existing land use, you can report on the changes that are required to be made in the suggestion form through a comment. So now let's just go and look at what does an ELU look like for a planning district 3, Shanti Nagar, Langford town. Now, typically, you will find that this is a PDF document which goes in for some 4 pages. And typically, when you navigate through it, you will get this plus minus sign. I mean, it might come at different places depending on your web browser. So here, what I'm really doing is zooming down on this particular map in terms of, for let's say, the Langford town space. Now, if I see the Langford town area, you'll see a whole lot of places that are colored yellow, a few places that are colored blue, which are supposed to be the commercial land use, and a few which are red, which are public and semi-public spaces. There are certain things which are also shown in green. Now, this happens to be an area that is quite close to my place. And I notice, for example, right now my cursor is near Olef Road. Now, in front of Olef Road, actually, there is a road called Bright Street, which is missing out here. There are other roads called Walker Lane and others that are missing. In my immediate neighborhood, I'm finding that close to about 8 to 10 streets are missing. And therefore, it's my duty to point out the missing streets and let the BDA know that there are errors in the existing land use map. Another thing that citizens can see is blue represents commercial. It's quite possible that something shown yellow out here actually has got a commercial premises on the ground. And that too needs to be indicated that there is a commercial premises in what is shown as yellow out here. The other thing, for example, we have something here shown as a burial ground. There's a part of the burial ground which actually is a playground, and that needs to be demarcated separately. So these are the kind of things that one can do with the existing land use, which is available in Chapter 2. Now, once you have noted the changes in terms of missing streets or missing properties, playgrounds, parks which have not been identified, or colors that are not okay, one can then move on to Chapter 5. And if you go back to the revised master plan, you'll find that volume 5 deals with the proposed land use map. Now, here too, one has downloaded for the same Shantinagar what the proposed land use map looks like. And just like we did the last time, here too you can find, and you can go ahead and expand the map so that you are able to read it a lot more clearly. I'm sorry, it took a little time, and consequently the size of the map has become pretty large. So you can actually do both the existing land use as well as the proposed land use. I'm sorry, yeah. So you can look at the proposed land use as well as the existing land use to be able to see how is the proposal different from the existing land use. Now, if you saw, in fact, the image just came just now and left. If you recall, we saw the Olef Road earlier. If you remember the map earlier, there were a lot of blue colors along Langford Road. All of them in the proposed land use is currently showing as yellow. So what it means is that from a BDA perspective, they expect these plots to be used as residential plots and not as commercial plots, even though the existing land use was commercial. Then the question arises, how will an existing commercial become residential from a BDA perspective? Is it that when a tenant vacates that particular plot, that it reverts to residential? Or is it if the plot gets redeveloped, it becomes residential? There is not sufficient clarity as to how the blue will actually become red or yellow on the ground in reality. The other thing we must realize as we study these maps, some of the blues that exist in your locality could have been valid as per the last master plan. They might have got the requisite permissions for it to be commercial. Then in such cases, they are entitled to continue to be commercial spaces. So this brings us back to the steps. So far what we have covered is to go to the website, look at Chapter 4 to find your planning district, go to Chapter 2 and Chapter 5 to understand the existing land use and the proposed land use, and to note down the changes that you wish to make. Then we can again go back to Chapter 4, which was the one which had your planning document. So when you go back to Chapter 4, as we will do in a particular chapter, each planning district, there is a write-up available in this particular chapter. So for example, if we take Planning District 1, which is the Central Business District, you will find that it shows where is the planning district. It gives you data on demographic, administration, housing, slums, traffic, transportation. So there's a fair amount of write-up about the planning district. But the important thing is to look at the RMP 2031 proposals for your district. For example, here there are a whole lot of proposals related to, let's say, the heritage uses. Or, for example, they mentioned that there's a plan for a light monorail train near Trinity Interchange and Common Park Metro Station in Planning District 1. So, similarly, it will be there for your own planning district. And therefore, you have to see whether what they have suggested out here. For example, let's take an example of Planning District 1. In Chapter 4, Volume 4, you will basically see that they have the following junction improvement programs planned near Trinity Circle, Shoelace Circle, Lalbagh Main Station, and the like. There are plans for parking in the CBD area, PETA area. The details are not available here, but at a high level, you will know what are their plans for your particular district. And that's the basis on which you can then give your view whether anything has got missed out in terms of developments on the grounds, a dry waste collection center that you might want that is not specified, and the like. So that really is the Chapter 4. And then there is another chapter which is really the zoning regulation. I am not going to be covering that in great detail because you will need to go and look at it. But typically when you go to this is volume number 6, which is the zoning regulation. So when you click on it, you will get another PDF file, which actually sets out what are the zones for different road widths. If the road width is 12 meters, 18 meters and the like, what are the zoning regulations that are applicable, how much height can you build, what is the floor area ratio and the like. Now, I again would like to stress at this stage, the heart of the revised master plan deals with knowing your planning district and what are the plans for the planning district, what is the existing land use and the proposed land use in your particular area, and what are the related zoning regulation. This is the sector that really matters as far as the RMP 2031 is concerned. And this is the area that citizens and resident welfare associations need to focus on. The other thing really is there is a suggestion form, as we saw out here on the right side. There's a suggestion form. You can download the suggestion form. There is an email ID where you can send the suggestions. And therefore, you can digitally send across your feedback to BDA. The feedback can be in terms of existing land use, proposed land use, zoning regulations, and what's planned in your planning district. If you have the time and the energy after this exercise, you can spend some time in reading Chapter 1 and Chapter 3 of the master plan document, which has data at the city level as well as the sector reading in terms of what does it mean for transportation, for housing, for environment and the like. Now, before I go further, there's another interesting thing that you might like to study in your area. And I'm going to show you two maps for you to be able to understand by taking an area that most people in Bangalore would understand. Now, this is really in Koramangala. And if you will bear with me and follow what I'm doing out here. Now, what you see out here, the red area is the St. John's Medical College. And what is shown here as the 17th main road is the Koramangala 100 feet road. Now, this road that you see, what is called the first A cross, is the road that joins 100 feet road Koramangala to Jyoti Nivas College. Now, as most of you who have been to that part of the city will know, that this road has a whole range of restaurants which are shown in blue color out here as commercial in terms of existing land use. And there are also restaurants in the corner out here. And there are a few residential plots that are shown in yellow. Now, if we now go and see what the proposed land use of the same area is concerned, I'm now looking at 100 feet road and the same road which connects to Jyoti Nivas College, you suddenly find that all those blues have actually become yellow. In fact, if you recollect the earlier drawing, I'll just quickly go there. You will find that there's a lot of blue here, there's a lot of blue in other places. And suddenly, when you go to the proposed land use, all of them have been colored yellow. So what it means, and it's very likely that in your own area, you will discover a similar pattern of blue becoming yellow. At a city-wide level, roughly 35% of the commercial area has got converted to residential through this process. The question that you have to ask for yourself or at the resident welfare level is this how you want your neighborhood to be? And if this is how you want your neighborhood to be, how will the blues actually become yellows in reality? And as I mentioned earlier, some of the blues would have had legitimate permission to run it as a commercial establishment. So there are a certain gray areas in this yellow blue stuff that is happening. And this is something that you can apply your mind in terms of what does it mean for you as you look at this whole exercise. So quickly to summarize the ground that I covered, there is the website bdabangalore.org RMP 2031. Those have a whole lot of volumes or chapters. And you start with chapter 4, find your planning district, go look at existing land use and proposed land use, mark the changes that you want to make, study chapter 4 for what's planned for your planning district, look at the zoning regulations available in chapter 6, and send in your suggestions to BDA at the website that is mentioned out here. This whole exercise is an exercise by BPAC as well as Citizen Matters. They actually have a contest that they are running. What will the revised master plan do to my area? Now, if you're going to participate in that contest, and I encourage as many of you to enter into this contest, it is going to be possible to talk about what the master plan will do to your area only if you get into the level of detail that I spoke about related to your planning district, the existing land use, proposed land use, and the zoning regulations. So take part in this contest, get involved, giving your suggestions to BDA. This is a BPAC Citizen Matters initiative, and look out for the announcements on Twitter and Facebook. Just like I am walking you through in terms of how to interpret the RMP 2031, there will be subject matter experts who will talk about what does it mean in terms of water and waste management, what does it mean in terms of transportation and mobility, what does it mean in terms of environment. Experts will come and give you a sense of what does this master plan mean in respect of that. There's another very interesting thing that BPAC and Citizen Matters have lined up. There is an open data city project. There's something called Uru, and you will have Nikhil come up one of these days and talk to you about how they have taken the master plan data and repurposed it in maps where you can see side by side what the master plan is going to do to your existing area. So these are individual citizens who have taken the trouble of taking the fairly difficult to use BDA data and trying to make it into a more customer friendly version that actually makes sense for citizens. So the important thing is Bangalore has a lot of citizen and neighborhood RWA energy. Let's use this energy to let BDA know what we think about the RMP 2031 so that we and future generations can get the city that we truly deserve. So this brings me to the end of this particular session, walking you through how to understand the RMP 2031. Thank you and good day.